everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Reeti Upadhyay and I am one of the chief champions of CMC very proudly. And today we are here to attend one of the webinars of the GST course that is provided by the Waves of Knowledge, which is an initiative by CMC. It's called Mira Road. Before we begin with anything, let's just remember the name of God. And for the prayers, I would request our dear Professor Madhuri Ma'am, Principal Director of CMC, to take over.
Thank you so much, dear Reet. A warm good evening, everyone, to this beautiful beginning of GST, a course relaunched on high demand of all our dear students. So let's begin our beautiful evening by the recitation of Shri Shikshashtakam prayer. Cheto darpana marjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavadhu jivanam anandam buddhi vardhanam प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृता स्वादनम् सर्वात्मा स्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्ण संकीर्तनम् नाम नामकारी बहुधा निज सर्वशक्ति तत्रार्पिता नियमिता स्मरणेन काला एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि दुर्दैवमिदृशमिह जानिनानुरागा तृणादपि सुनीचेन तरोरपि सहिष्णुना अमानिना मानदेन कीर्तनीय सदा हरि न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवताद् भक्तिरहेतु की त्वयि ऐनन्दतनुजा किङ्करम् पतितां मां विषमे भवाम्बुधौ कृपया तव पादपङ्कजा स्थितधूलिसदृशं विचिन्तय नयनं गलदश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदा हृदया गिरा पुलकैरनिचितं वपुकडा तव नाम ग्रहणे भविष्यति युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्राविश्यायितं शून्यायितं जगत् सर्वं गोविन्दस्विरहेण मे आश्लीष्य वा पादरतां पिनस्तु माम् आदर्शनान् मार्महतां करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विदधातु लम्पटो मत्प्राणनाथास्तु स एव नापरः हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण
Blessed are yours. May Lord Krishna bless us all and help us succeed in all our endeavors. And with that, I move on to what CMC really stands for. What are our goals, missions, and what it is all about? For that, I call upon Nandini.
Hello everyone. CNC is aimed toward nourishing the hearts of today's youth with the sublime messages of the scripture and helping them flourish their lives in a wholesome manner. Happiness and the true fulfillment of the soul and unending success have been the goals of humanity from eternity. Therefore, the reality is one cannot upload love, one can't download time, one can't Google all of the life's answers. Therefore, one must actually live some of his life. CMC is the youth wing of Sri Sri Radha Giridhari Temple, Mira Road, Mumbai, a branch of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, that is ISKCON. Spirit of CMC. For a sincere human being to live a life of pure principle is a great challenge. CMC is serving as an oasis in the sense that it is life-giving and transforming society in a stress-ridden, fast-paced, rat-race society that is like a desert. The CMC is committed to provide a facility like an oasis in the middle of a desert to keep oneself surcharged in the remembrance of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna always. CMC is striving towards bring the youth of all the faiths together for rekindling the wisdom and reviving their loving and serving propensities. Mission of the CMC. As India makes rapid advancements in the field of technology and is recognized the world over for its vast and untapped resources, especially the human resources with 60% of the population in the age group of 18 to 25. The future seems bright. But along with this euphoria, there is also a darker side to the reality. One that finds today's youth battling with the drugs and alcoholic addiction, exam pressure, work stress, pre- and post-marital infidelities, social media turbulence, and mental depression. Therefore, CMC has ventured into wisdom literature with the desire to bring about a positive revolution in the misguided life of modern youth. The goals of CMC are training in soft skills like public speaking, stress management, leadership and management by the application of the timeless wisdom in the modern scenario, blending the character with competence in bringing about a long-enduring success, unleashing the potential in the individual like concentration, motivation, self-confidence, etc., dealing with sensitivity and self-awareness in thought, words, and action, organizing outing for experiencing closer touch with the nature and the marvelous gift of the Supreme Divine. Thank you everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Nandini. You indeed gave us an insight of what CMC really stands for. I hope this helped our audience to know about CMC. Now I request Dhriti to speak about our speaker for the day. To let us know who he is, Dhriti, you can continue by introducing our speaker for the day.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I deem it my honor and privilege to introduce our today's speaker, CA Manish Gadia, sir. He is a chartered accountant practicing since 1997. He is partner in Messrs. GMG & Co. Chartered Accountants. He practices in the field of GST. He has co-authored the book Statutory Obligation of Cooperative Housing Society, published by WIRC of ICAI, and Handbook on Valuation and Handbook on EPC Contracts, which both were published by the Chamber of Tax Consultants. He was a regular contributor to WIRC Referencer and also to GST Referencer, published by GST-PAM. He has delivered more than 550 lectures, out of which more than 300 were on the topic of GST, held at ICAI, that is the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, branches of ICAI, study circles, management institutes, Indian Navy, etc. He is currently a member of Western India Regional Council and chairman of Profession Development Committee and Study Circle Coordination Committee. Now, I would like to call upon our Principal Director, Professor Madhuri Agarwal ma'am, to speak few more words about our honorable.
Thank you so much, dear Dhriti. So, dear students, it's an indeed pleasure for us for having such an amazing experienced person who's going to be speaking to us about this very, very essential topic, and that is GST. The system which brought a change within a society, the system which is taking India to new levels, the system which is actually a path embarking one. And we are very happy to have our dear Manish sir, because he has been the one who has been presenting this topic about GST before various authorities, including the government consulate. So therefore, students, it's a great time for us to make the best of this moment and take all the pleasures and the privilege to hear from such an eminent speaker. We are very happy to have you, sir, and it feels very great, indeed, pleasure and privilege to hear from you, sir. All over to you, and we look forward for this session with an enlightening one, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Hare Krishna. So first of all, I thank you, Madhuri madam, for keeping this ball rolling and inviting me here to share my thought. And I also thank my dear friend Amit Agrawal as well as Deepak Bansal for giving me this opportunity. And Dhriti, thank you very much for your kind words. So what I'm going to do is we are going to discuss, and I'm going to give you only the overview of GST. And I prefer to have an interactive session instead of going to one-way lecture series. Because what I have been told that the participants are really very intelligent, and they are going to a college and knows various things about the GST. So we all know that GST has been introduced into India from 1st July 2017. So we have already seen 3 years of GST in India. And GST is not new to the world. It is very old concept. It started with Europe, and if you see that most of the countries in the world has implemented GST as one of the tax, indirect tax I should say, in the name of GST, or maybe in the name of VAT. Different country uses different name for this, but it has been introduced and it has been successfully implemented there. So first of all, my first question is, what is GST? So what I can do is, what you can do is, I will raise various questions and I request all the participants, all the students, they can write their views in the chat box. So I will come to know that I'm interacting with someone and how much you understood, how much you know, and accordingly I will structure my talk. So I'm waiting for the answer from the participants. What is GST? And I will not proceed unless I will get some answer in a chat box. Yes, Hardeep Seni has said that goods and service tax. Ankita Mishra, Parinita Yadav. So everybody has said that goods and service tax. Absolutely right. The full form of GST is goods and service tax. So very good. So you are aware that what is the full form. But if I go into deep, yeah, Vishwakarma, Nandini Vishwakarma has said goods and service tax is indirect tax used in India on supply of goods and services. That is very good answer that you have said, that it is on the supply of goods and services. Indirectly imposed on the people. Chaurasia sir has said. Single domestic tax, Mayank Dubey. GST is consumption and destination based tax. Sujita Shinde, rightly, very good. So I know that all the participants, as has been said by Amit Agrawal yesterday to me, it seems to be correct. That participants are very intelligent. Prem Kumar has said, one nation, one tax. Supply and consumption of supply. Akash, really good. I am really thrilled that I am going to discuss with the participants who have a very good knowledge on GST. So before the introduction of GST law, the government has issued a FAQ, and there they have cleared various questions where they have given various answers. In that one question, the first question in that FAQ was, what is GST? And there the government themselves has said that it is a destination based tax on consumption of goods and services. Absolutely right. One of the participants has written in his chat box that it is a destination based tax on consumption of goods and services. And it is proposed to be levied at all stages, right from manufacture up to final consumption, with credit of taxes paid at previous stages available as set off. That is very, very, very important, that there should not be any cascading effect of tax. Whatever you paid to your previous supplier, the credit of the same should be available to you, so that ultimately the cost can be reduced to ultimately consumer. So we will deal in detail a little bit later on this aspect. But if I have to summarize what is GST in 5 seconds, so you can see this video. This is what GST is. What I am getting from my supplier, I have to pass it on, that credit, that tax, to my customer with the same force. That is in a nutshell what GST means. Ultimately, it will remain, it will be cost to the consumer. What is the need for bringing GST? Why GST has been brought in India? So previously, before introduction of GST, you all know that India has a structure where there is a central government and there is a state government. Two governments are there, and both the government have their own expenditure, and they need some revenue to meet that expenditure, to provide facility to the public, to the society in general. So what was happening earlier? Earlier there was 17 different indirect taxes were there, which has been subsumed in GST. I will not say that only GST is now the only indirect tax in India. There are still various other indirect taxes are there, but the major 17 indirect taxes which were there earlier has been subsumed in GST. So you all know that previous to introduction of GST, there was VAT leviable on sale of goods. There was excise leviable on manufacturing of goods. Service tax was levied on provision of service. So various kind of things were there. So first of all, we were having an issue whether it is a sale of goods or whether it is a service. That was a various litigations were there as far as the various court, if you see. Software, whether it is a good or service. IPR, franchisee fees, whether it is goods or service. So all that issues were there and various litigations were going on. To keep that risk, GST was introduced. Then there was issue whether it is local sales, whether central sale tax. Means if there was a local sale tax, then VAT was leviable. Once I will sell from Maharashtra to Gujarat, then CST was leviable. Then there are two different tax. Then again, if CST is there, then I have to collect the C form to take a reduction in benefit. So all these issues were there. Next issue was multiple levies at different rates in different state. So there may be a particular product like this mobile phone was leviable to VAT maybe at 5% in Maharashtra, and Karnataka may be levying 12.5%. So various state, different state was levying different rate on their product. So you can't say that it is a one nation, one tax, one nation, one market. Different state, different rate of tax, different, all this was there. The base was also very narrow as far as the government is concerned. Various product was there under the exemption list. Service provider was not eligible for VAT credit and trader was not eligible for SENVAT credit. So there is a cascading effect. There is a breakage in the SENVAT mechanism. There is a breakage in the input tax credit mechanism, which lead to increase the cost. Lack of uniformity in provision and interpretational issue because various states having a different VAT law. So the one thing may be defined in Maharashtra differently than what has been defined under the Tamil Nadu law. Then there is a complexity and various compliances were there. So if a company who was operating maybe in 20 states in India, so need 20 different consultants, need 20 different, need to have 20 different interpretation for single product, single law. And over and above, there was the issue of cascading of taxes. How this work? Suppose the goods was manufactured. For manufacturing of goods, you need to purchase a raw material. You purchase that raw material. On that you paid excise. And at the same time you also paid VAT on the same. Suppose the factory is in Maharashtra. The factory is in Maharashtra. And you purchase goods from Gujarat. So Gujarat supplier will charge CST. The credit of the same was not available to the manufacturer in Maharashtra. Then that become cost for him. Then after that manufacturing of that goods, he sold that goods to a distributor who is again in Chennai. Again when he will sell that goods, he will levy custom duty, he will levy excise duty as well as CST. Again the credit of CST was not available to distributor and excise duty credit was also not available to the distributor. So that excise duty and CST become cost for that distributor. And distributor also incurred GTA, freight. On that he used to pay the service tax. That credit of service tax was also not available to him. So now ultimately the tax पे tax हम भरते जा रहे थे और उसकी वजह से the cost of goods become heavy. So all these challenges were there in the old VAT or excise or earlier regime of indirect tax. So government thought to come out with a GST system. What are the key advantages of GST system? It reduction in multiple taxes, multiple type of taxes on goods and services. So previously what was happening? If you go to a businessman goes and stays in a hotel charge him luxury tax. The rate of tax may be 23% in some state, maybe 15% in another state. And the credit of the same was not available to that businessman. So there was multiple taxes a businessman used to pay, and because of that, that challenges were there. Now GST is to be a simple and rational tax structure with improved administration. There is an ease of administration with updated and enhanced IT and technological framework. So everything is a system driven as far as GST is concerned. So if I sell something to Amit Agrawal and Amit Agrawal purchase something, so it will come to his account, in his credit ledger, in his account, that I have sold goods to him. So he will come to know that I have sold that good. So everything is system driven. So there is less chance of not paying tax or evading tax. So the tax base will increase for the government. And effective tax slab will be lesser. So previously what was happening? Some state charged 5%, 14.5%, 12.5%. Then excise duty was there, 5%, 12.5%. So multiple taxes, multiple tax rate was there. So now for single product, as I said, that in some state it may be 5%, some state it may be VAT, maybe 12.5%, it may be 14.5%. So then it will be difficult to keep a track if manufacturer or a supplier is selling a single product. And then tax was also not leviable under the earlier law on a common tax base. More common base. What was happening is, suppose the sale price is 100. On that 100, suppose 12.5% excise duty was leviable. So 100 पे 12.5% मुझे लगाना है. So now I need to pay VAT not on 100. I need to pay VAT earlier at 112.5. 100 plus 12.5% excise. On that I need to pay the VAT. So there was no common base for levy of tax, which is there in the GST. And reduce cascading effect due to the cross tax credit mechanism under GST. So goods ka credit mujhe service ke samne, service ka credit I can take against goods. So now the cascading effect has been reduced. This is the benefit as far as the businessman is concerned. If I go for government will get increased tax collection due to the wider tax base. Earlier the manufacturer was not registered with VAT, or service provider was not registered with VAT department, but now everything, a person who need to do the business need to register with the GST authority. So there is a wider tax base. When there is a wider tax base, ultimately the revenue for government will increase. Government will get money for serving better to the society in general. And it also reduces administration cost for the government. So if I was selling goods from Maharashtra to Gujarat, there was no mechanism under the earlier regime to find out that whether this transaction happened, not happened. But now due to the system, everything, even if I'm exporting, importing, I'm sending goods to X, Y, Z across India, anywhere in the world, in the country, everything can be tracked. So this will reduce the administration cost for the government. So this is the benefit for the government. As far as consumer is concerned, since the collection is going to increase as we discussed for the government, so government is definitely going to reduce the tax rate. And once the tax rate will reduce, the ultimately beneficiary will be the consumer. And as I said, the cascading effect will reduce. Once the cascading effect will reduce, ultimately the product will also become cheaper. So all this benefit will to the consumer. So ultimately the GST system will benefit to the businessman, to the consumer, to the government. And आज की तारीख में हम ये नहीं बोल सकते कि single आदमी, not a single person is there in India who may not be affected, who may not have tested GST. If you are doing a business, whether you are supplying service, whether you are a manufacturer, whether you are a trader, whether you are a startup, whether you are manufacturing, or whether you are developing a software or an app or whatever business you are doing in India, you need to have a GST registration. Whether you are selling goods on a e-portal, e-commerce portal you are using and selling goods from there, then also you need to register yourself and pay GST. If you are working in an organization, you are an employee, then also GST also need to be understood by you. Because if you are in marketing, ultimately the major cost to the consumer will be GST. So whether your customer will get a credit or not is again you want to know. If you are doing accounting, you are doing taxation, definitely you are. So not a single person I can say in India who is not affected with GST. So GST is very, very, very important to understand. And I compliment that CMC has taken that initiative and kept this lecture series on GST. So generally, if you go across the world, there is no dual GST model. Only the one government will levy GST on the goods and take that revenue. But as I said, India is having a federal system where the union government is there and the state government is there. Both the governments are there. And both governments need money to serve the society. That's why India has adopted dual GST system. So central will levy central GST, that is called CGST. State government will levy SGST, that is called state GST. And once there is an interstate supply of goods or services, on that integrated GST, that is IGST, shall be levied. So there is a dual structure, dual levy and dual control as far as GST is concerned. So once we say dual structure of GST, when there is an interstate supply of goods, that is I'm supplying services in Maharashtra, from Maharashtra to a customer in Maharashtra, then it will call an intrastate supply of goods or services. So in case of intrastate supply, the supplier will charge CGST as well as SGST both on his supplies. CGST will go to the central government, SGST will go to the state government. Against the CGST, he can take the credit of IGST as well as CGST both. Against SGST, he can take the credit of IGST and SGST. Cross credit of CGST and SGST is not available. In case of interstate supply of goods or services, including export and import, IGST shall be leviable. Only IGST shall be leviable. It will go to the central government, and what central government will say, do is, will transfer whatever tax has been collected as IGST, 50% of the same, to the respective state government. Thus goods or services has been consumed as per the place of supply in the particular state, there that will be consumed. Then that will be transferred to that. So this is how this is going to work. So now many participants have said that this is a destination based tax. So earlier what we used to do is the tax was origin based. What is origin based and what is destination based is very important for us to understand. Origin based tax is, suppose I am manufacturing goods in Maharashtra. So excise duty is leviable on this goods when I am going to sell that goods. So suppose I am manufacturing goods in Maharashtra. I am selling that goods to a party who is in Delhi. So I will recover excise duty as well as CGST, CST under the earlier regime, central sale tax, and both will remain in Maharashtra because the origin of goods is in Maharashtra. So the producing state will always get a more revenue, but consuming state will not get a single pie of revenue. So under the earlier regime, Delhi was not getting any tax under this kind of system. But now it has been shifted from origin based to destination based. So suppose if I am a manufacturing goods in Maharashtra, selling the goods to Delhi party. So in that scenario, since it is an interstate transaction, I will levy IGST and the tax will be collected maybe in Maharashtra, but ultimately it will go to the Delhi government. So the consuming state will be beneficiary of this tax. So now the tax base has been shifted from origin base to destination base. That is what is it. So origin base में जो tax था वो महाराष्ट्र के पास ही रहता था under the earlier regime. अब वो tax जो है कंज्यूमिंग स्टेट, जैसे कि मैंने एग्जांपल में बताया दिल्ली है, तो दिल्ली के पास चला जाएगा. दिल्ली विल बी बेनिफिशियरी ऑफ दिस टैक्स. दैट इज व्हाट वी कॉल अ डेस्टिनेशन बेस्ड टैक्स. जिससे कि हम जानते हैं कि जो टैक्स है ये टैक्स है जीएसटी, इज अ टैक्स ऑन गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज. तो अगर कोई भी चीज इधर गुड्स नहीं है या सर्विस नहीं है तो उसके ऊपर ये टैक्स लगेगा ही नहीं. So if you want to pay tax, you want to charge tax, government want to charge tax, either it has to fit into goods or services. So that's why government has defined what is goods and what is service. So goods is every kind of movable property. So कोई भी अगर movable property है तो वो goods में आएगी. Immovable property है तो वो goods में नहीं आएगी. So every kind of movable property other than money and securities. So what is money? Is rupees. and security is equity share hai, mera debenture hai, all these are securities, future hai, option hai, all these are my securities. So every kind of movable property, money या security के अलावा, but also it include actionable claim, growing crops, grass and things attached to the forming part of land agreed to be served before supply or under the contract of supply is a goods. So the definition of goods is very very wide. तो कोई भी movable property है money और security के अलावा तो will be a goods. Then what is services? Anything other than goods. So goods क्या है वो हमने देखा. तो जो चीज goods नहीं है या money other than money, goods, money and securities. So money, security और goods के अलावा everything is service, and it also includes activities relating to the use of money or its conversion by cash or any other mode from one currency or denomination to another form currency or denomination for which separate consideration is charged. So मैं एक forex dealer के पास जाता हूँ, मुझे US जाना है, मैंने उसको 100 रुपया उसको 1 लाख रुपया दिया और उसने मुझे उसके बदले में डॉलर दिया वर्थ ₹1 लाख. सो डॉलर जो उसने मनी के बदले में मुझे दिया, दैट विल नॉट बी अ सर्विस, बट उसके लिए जो उसने कन्वर्जन चार्ज मुझसे लिया, दैट इज ऑल्सो अ सर्विस. दैट व्हाट इट मीन्स. एंड फर्दर इट सेज दैट फॉर रिमूवल ऑफ डाउट it is hereby clarified that the expression services include facilitating or arranging transaction in securities. So security is not a service, is neither service nor goods. But what further it clarifies is that अगर सिक्योरिटी का कोई अरेंजमेंट या फैसिलिटेटिंग मैं करता हूं, या जैसे कि अगर शेयर ब्रोकर है, is buying and selling securities for me, and for that he is earning some income, brokerage income. That is a service. Stock exchange charges various kind of charges to the broker, security transaction tax, security transaction charges, जो NSE और BSE charge करता है, that is also a service. So if you see the definition of goods and service, जो goods नहीं है वो service है. So even if my immovable property, my land, my building, which is immovable property, is not a good because it is not movable, but there is no exclusion of immovable property as far as the definition of service is concerned. So everything below the sky, above the earth or below the earth may be either goods or service. If you see the scope of goods and service tax is very, 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 very wide. You have to cover everything. Although they have clarified later on and they have said that Schedule 3 में उन्होंने कहा है कि there are certain things which is neither supply of goods nor supply of service. So उसमें उन्होंने immovable property, land और building जो after completion certificate हम बेचते हैं उसको cover किया है. So there are various things they have covered in Schedule 3. तो उसके ऊपर GST नहीं लगेगा. But otherwise, if you see, the GST law is applicable to everything. Everything is either maybe goods or maybe services. So any doubt about goods or services till now? So you can write in a chat box. Couple of participants have said that GST is a tax on a supply. So it is very, very important to understand that what is supply. Really very important to understand what is supply. So any idea, anyone is having what is supply? So you can write in a chat box if you have any idea what is supply. So supply again section 7 में define किया गया है. And if you see the definition of supply, it is, Prem Kumar has said that it is transported. Ritesh said it is a consideration. Nandini, supply is a fundamental economic concept that describes the total amount of specific goods and services that is available to consumer. Supply is a stock of goods That is what Pankaj Mishra ji is saying. Part of stock transfer for sale, Suraksha Yadav is saying. Ritesh Dubey is saying, what about taxability of money and security because it is neither goods or service? Very good question, Ritesh ji, you said. So sir, Ritesh ji, I will answer this question. मैं आपके पास आता हूं रितेश जी एंड आई वांट आंसर फ्रॉम यू. मैंने आपको 500 रुपए का नोट दिया और मैंने बोला रितेश जी आप मुझे 100 रुपए के 5 नोट दे दो. सो यू हैव गिवन मी दैट 5 नोट ऑफ 100 रुपीज. मुझे एक्सचेंज चाहिए, मैं छोटा करेंसी चाहिए था. सो वेदर इट शुड बी अ सर्विस, रितेश जी? नो. सो दैट्स व्हाई दे हैव एक्सक्लूडेड मनी स्पेसिफिकली फ्रॉम द डेफिनेशन ऑफ गुड और सर्विस. अदरवाइज क्या होगा कि जो मैंने आपने मुझे जो 500 रुपए के बदले में जो 5 नोट दिए 100 के, वो भी टैक्सेबल हो जाते. इसके लिए ये डेफिनेशन से मनी को निकालना जरूरी था. बट अगर मैंने जैसे आपको एग्जांपल, व्हाट एग्जांपल आई हैव गिवन इज दैट इफ आई एम बाइंग अ डॉलर एंड फॉर दैट आई एम गिविंग सम सर्विस फीस टू द फॉरेक्स डीलर, देन इट इज अ सर्विस. बट रुपीस के बदले में जो मुझे डॉलर मिले, दैट इज नॉट अ service. Very good question has been raised by one of the participants saying that Vivek Yadav ji is asking why petrol is not coming in GST. So while giving, I am not going into the detailing of GST, but GST law said that 5 kind of petroleum product: petrol, diesel, ATF, and then so I'm not going into that product, and liquor for human consumption. This kind of product will not be covered within the scope of GST, while because state government is still levying excise duty and VAT on that product, इसके लिए पेट्रोल के ऊपर GST नहीं लगता है. आशीष जी ने बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन पूछा है कि सर हाउ लैंड कम्स अंडर गुड. डेफिनेटली land will not come under the definition of goods because it is an immovable property. And if you see the definition of good, it says that any movable property. So land is not a goods. But can a land be a service? Because if you see the definition of service, it says anything other than goods, money and security, everything is service. So there is no exclusion of immovable property as far as the service is concerned. But anyway, GST is not leviable on sale of land. The reason, as I said, it is covered in Schedule 3, and Schedule 3 is saying that land is neither supply of goods nor supply of service. Hence, GST is not leviable on land. But land will be covered in the definition of the service. That we should know. So supply का definition अगर मैं देखूं तो बहुत ही बड़ा है, क्योंकि मुझे चैट बॉक्स में काफी स्टूडेंट्स के कमेंट्स आए हैं कि सर यू स्पीक इन हिंदी. तो व्हाट आई विल डू इज आई विल स्पीक इन हिंदी और बाकी इंग्लिश में मेरा टेक्स्ट इसमें लिखा है तो आप पढ़ भी सकते हैं. So if you see the definition of supply, it says that supply include. So once you say the include, it is very inclusive definition. It is very wide. Or it says all form of supply of goods and services or both, such as sale. So supply covered not only sale, it covered various other things. Transfer, barter. So माधुरी मैडम हैं इस सेशन में. So माधुरी मैडम के साथ मैंने एक अरेंजमेंट किया कि मैं आपके बच्चों को सिखाऊंगा. जो भी है ट्रेनिंग है जीएसटी की, आई विल गिव यू. बट बदले में मेरा जो एक मेरा खुद का जो लड़का है उसको आप आपके यहाँ पे फ्री में आप ट्रेनिंग दीजिए, और उसके बदले आई विल नॉट गिव यू एनी मनी एंड आई विल नॉट ऑल्सो चार्ज एनी मनी for teaching the CMC student. So this is a barter transaction. So I am also giving service to CMC. CMC is also giving service to my son. So this is a barter transaction. This is also covered within the definition of supply. Then exchange, license, rental, lease. So even if मैंने भाड़े पे property ली है, so that is also a part of supply. लीज पे मैंने कोई क्रेन दी है, कोई गुड्स लीज पे दिया है, दैट इज ऑल्सो अ सप्लाई. or any disposal made or agreed to be made. So मैंने कोई चीज dispose of भी कर दी है और agreed हूं मैं कोई consideration के against में for a consideration. So there has to be, supply has to be with a consideration. तो consideration जैसे मैंने barter में बताया कि there is a consideration that Madhuri madam is giving some service to my son and I am also giving some service to Madhuri madam. So there is a consideration in barter, there is a consideration in kind. So not necessary that consideration should जो है वो पैसे में ही होना चाहिए by a person in the course or furtherance of business. So if all this condition will be satisfied, it will be a supply. So definition of supply बहुत ही wide है. So everything can be covered. If there is a consideration, then there will be a supply. Since today I am giving a lecture, I am not charging anything to CMC. So there is no consideration. And at the same time, there is no barter. So it will not be treated, my session will not be treated as supply transaction. But if I charge something or I get in return something from CMC or Binder CA Social, then I need to pay GST on the same and it will be treated as supply. It will also cover import of services, import of goods. So I am not going into detail of the definition of supply because अगर मैं ऐसे जाने लगूंगा तो GST में I will not be able to cover. So I just want to highlight that GST is a tax on a supply of either goods or services. The definition of goods I have seen, the definition of service we have seen, और हमने देख लिया है कि supply भी क्या है. So supply is also very wide enough to cover everything. Even if मैं मेरी एक ब्रांच जो कि महाराष्ट्र में है, दूसरी ब्रांच मेरी इंदौर में है, उसको अगर मैं कोई गुड सप्लाई करता हूं, then also it will be treated as transaction of supply and GST shall be payable on the same. चौरसिया साहब ने बहुत ही अच्छा क्वेश्चन पूछा है. उन्होंने पूछा है सर कंसिडरेशन में समथिंग इन रिटर्न. एब्सोल्युटली यू आर गेटिंग समथिंग इन रिटर्न, मे बी इन मनी टर्म्स और मे नॉट बी इन मनी टर्म्स. जैसे कि मैंने बताया कि मैं सर्विस के सामने सर्विस ले रहा हूं, तो दैट इज ऑल्सो अ कंसिडरेशन. सो कंसिडरेशन मीन्स समथिंग इन रिटर्न. एज फार एज मैं रेट ऑफ टैक्स की बात करूं तो मैंने यहाँ पे ब्रॉड रेट ऑफ टैक्स जीएसटी के जो हैं वो दिए हैं. तो 0.25% जीएसटी का रेट है डायमंड के ऊपर, 3% है गोल्ड और सिल्वर पे, दैट इज बुलियन. 5% जो बेसिक कमोडिटीज है, बेसिक आइटम्स हैं, उनके ऊपर 5 है. काफी कुछ प्रोडक्ट्स हैं जैसे कि मेरा खाने पीने की चीजें, फल हैं, सब्जियां हैं, ऑल दिस आर लेविएबल टू 0 रेट, नील रेट, तो उस पर कोई टैक्स नहीं है. देयर आर सर्टन बेसिक थिंग्स, बेसिक रिक्वायरमेंट लाइक सम काइंड ऑफ फार्मास्यूटिकल, जो बेसिक मेरी लाइफ सेविंग ड्रग्स है, उसके ऊपर गवर्नमेंट ने सिर्फ 5% का जीएसटी लगाया है. देयर आर वेरियस प्रोडक्ट्स और सर्विसेज विच आर लेविएबल टू 12% टैक्स. 18% है, 28% है, and 28% GST is leviable on luxury item like motor car, like cigarette. That is a sin tax what we call. And जैसे कि जो लग्जरी आइटम है, मोटर कार है, जो टोबैको प्रोडक्ट्स है, जो सिगरेट्स हैं, ये सब के ऊपर over and above 28% GST cess is also leviable. So government want to discourage this kind of product, hence heavy duty has been levied on this. These are the broad tax rate. Different पे और भी tax rate काफी है. So I'm not going into that detailing of GST tax rate. Once we have decided that there is this is a good, this is a service, and there is a supply of goods or service or both, the next step is the time of supply. What is time of supply? कि मुझे इस ट्रांजेक्शन के ऊपर, इस सप्लाई के ऊपर जीएसटी कब देना है. तो वो भी जीएसटी लॉ में डिफाइन किया गया है. हर्षी, आपका क्वेश्चन बार बार आ रहा है. यू कैन से समथिंग अबाउट जीएसटी कॉम्पनसेशन डिस्प्यूट बिटवीन सेंटर एंड स्टेट. इफ आई विल स्टार्ट डिस्कसिंग दैट, this will take another 10 to 15 minutes, and there are other important things जो participants, जो students जानना चाहेंगे, which are more important for them. So then I have to miss out that because I have to conclude this session in next 10 minutes. So, and it will take at least 15 minutes for me to explain that compensation dispute between state and center. So, जैसा मैंने आपको बताया कि एक हमने डिसाइड कर लिया कि गुड्स या सर्विस है, इसका सप्लाई हो गया, तो मुझे उस सप्लाई के ऊपर टैक्स कब देना है. तो वो भी गुड्स के लिए अलग उन्होंने डिफाइन किया है टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई, और सर्विस के लिए अलग डिफाइन किया है. तो ब्रॉडली लॉ सेज दैट जब भी मैं गुड डिस्पैच करता हूं उसके पहले मुझे उसके ऊपर जीएसटी भर देना चाहिए. उसके पहले डिस्पैच या एट द टाइम ऑफ डिस्पैच और बिफोर द डिस्पैच इनवॉइस शुड बी रेज्ड and GST should be paid as far as the goods are concerned. As far as services are concerned, services के केस में जब भी मेरी सर्विस कंप्लीट हो गई या विदिन 30 days of completion of service मैं इनवॉइस इशू कर देता हूं, so date of invoice or receipt of money for the services whichever is earlier, that will be time of supply. तो उस टाइम पे मुझे उसका जीएसटी का पेमेंट करना. देन जैसे कि हमने पता चला हमको कि ये मेरा टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई, इस टाइम पे टैक्स देना है, और हमने ऑलरेडी डिस्कस किया कि रेट ऑफ टैक्स क्या है. बट मुझे जो रेट ऑफ टैक्स अप्लाई करना है वो कौन सी वैल्यू पे अप्लाई करना है. तो जीएसटी लॉ सेज दैट जीएसटी शैल बी पेएबल ऑन द ट्रांजैक्शन वैल्यू. अगर मैंने ये फोन किसी को 1000 रुपए में बेचा है तो मुझे 1000 रुपए पे ही टैक्स देना है. तो जो भी मेरा ट्रांजैक्शन वैल्यू होगा उस ट्रांजैक्शन वैल्यू पे टैक्स देना है. देयर आर सर्टेन एक्सेप्शन टू दिस वैल्यू ऑफ सप्लाई. आई एम नॉट गोइंग इनटू डिटेल ऑफ दैट एक्सेप्शन, बट वैल्यू ऑफ सप्लाई हैज बीन डिफाइंड एंड ब्रॉडली इट इज ऑन द ट्रांजैक्शन वैल्यू. तो एक ये जोक है, काफी प्रिवेल हो रहा चल रहा था कि एक लड़की ने एक लड़के से पूछा कि डार्लिंग हाउ मच, आप मुझसे कितना प्यार करते हो. तो लड़के ने कहा 82%. तो लड़की ने कहा क्यों 100% नहीं, वाई 82%? द रीजन वॉज द 18% जीएसटी इज एप्लीकेबल ऑन ऑल ट्रांजेक्शन एंड ऑन द ट्रांजेक्शन वैल्यू. सो व्हाट यू आर गेटिंग, 100 रुपए का अगर एमआरपी है तो उसमें से 18% या उसमें से 12% डिपेंडिंग ऑन द प्रोडक्ट जो कि गवर्नमेंट को जाता है. देन जैसे कि हमने डिस्कस किया कि जीएसटी इज अ डेस्टिनेशन बेस्ड टैक्स. So what is the destination of goods or service is very difficult to define. इसके लिए गवर्नमेंट ने प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई को डिफाइन किया है. तो प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई डिफाइन करेगा कि जीएसटी में क्या किस स्टेट को टैक्स जाना चाहिए. सो अगेन मैं इसके और डिटेल में बहुत नहीं जा रहा बिकॉज इसके डिटेल में जाने में, इसको समझाने में मुझे 6 से 7 घंटे लगेंगे कि प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई क्या होता है. But broadly, अगर the location of supplier and the place of supply is within the same state. जैसे मैंने बॉम्बे में मैं हूं और मैंने पूना के किसी कस्टमर को माल बेचा, so दोनों महाराष्ट्र में, तो it will become intra-state supply. And on that CGST, SGST shall be leviable. मैंने कोई माल महाराष्ट्र में हूं और मैंने कोई कस्टमर जो कि मेरा अहमदाबाद में है उसको माल बेचा, so then it's become an interstate supply. And in case of interstate supply, IGST लगेगा, CGST, SGST नहीं लगेगा. In case of import of goods or services, it will be always treated as IGST, interstate supply. In case of export of goods and supply to SEZ unit, इनको भी interstate supply ही treat होगा. So, and again, place of supply for goods and place of supply for services are differently defined. मैं उसके डिटेलिंग में नहीं जा रहा हूं because it will be difficult. As far as export of goods are concerned, अगर कोई goods इंडिया से बाहर आउट ऑफ इंडिया जा रहा है then only it will be treated as export of goods. कोई goods अगर फॉरेन से आउट ऑफ इंडिया से इंडिया में आ रहा है then only it will be treated as import of goods. प्लेस ऑफ सर्विसेज में भी मैं खाली ब्रॉडली इतना दे देता हूं कि अगर रिसिपिएंट ऑफ द सप्लाई जो है, सर्विस जो है, इफ इट इज रजिस्टर्ड देन उसका जो लोकेशन होगा दैट विल ऑलवेज बी ट्रीटेड एज प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई विथ डेफिनेटली सर्टेन एक्सेप्शंस आर देयर. And again, input tax credit is very important. This is the only mechanism which will reduce the tax. And input tax credit अगेन वेरियस सर्टेन कंडीशंस उन्होंने दी है कि वंस आई रिसीव द गुड्स और उसका इनवॉइस मेरे पास है और मैंने मेरे सप्लायर ने उसका पेमेंट कर दिया है तो मुझे उसका क्रेडिट मिलेगा. अगेन उन्होंने कुछ टाइमलाइन में लिमिट दिया है कि क्रेडिट लेने के लिए, और सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है कि सर्टेन गुड्स और सर्विसेज को उन्होंने ब्लॉक क्रेडिट में रखा है. दैट उन्होंने डिफाइन किया है सेक्शन 17(5) में. तो जैसे कि मोटर कार का मुझे क्रेडिट नहीं मिलता है, फूड एंड बेवरेजेस का मुझे क्रेडिट नहीं मिलता है. तो देयर आर सर्टेन आइटम, आई एम नॉट गोइंग इनटू डिटेलिंग ऑफ दैट आइटम्स जिसके ऊपर की मुझे क्रेडिट नहीं मिलता है. सो दिस इज ब्रॉडली जो हमको लग रहा था जीएसटी आने के पहले कि एक स्ट्रेट हाईवे होगा और सिंपल रास्ता होगा और हम उस पर चल के जाएंगे, वैसा बिल्कुल भी नहीं है. दिस इज व्हाट वी रिसीव्ड. दिस इज मे बी अ लिटिल बिट कॉम्प्लिकेटेड बट स्मूथ मूवमेंट है ट्रैफिक का. दैट इज व्हाट इम्पोर्टेंट इज. तो जो भी मैंने डिस्कस किया वो मेरा ओपिनियंस और व्यूज था, एंड ओपिनियंस और व्यूज ऑलवेज लाइक रिस्ट वॉचेस. Every watch shows different time from others, but everyone believes that their time is right. So once again, I thank CMC and Binder CA Social Group for inviting me here to share my thought. And if you have any questions, any participants, you can write in the chat box, and I will try to cover and solve your queries. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
The question, why is there no GST on petrol?
Yes.
And what if GST is applied on petrol?
पेट्रोल जो है उसके ऊपर काफी टैक्स काफी ज्यादा है. आज अगर मैं बात करूं कि 82 रुपया या 85 रुपया अगर मेरा पेट्रोल है, तो पेट्रोल के ऊपर 85 रुपए में कम से कम 50 से 60 रुपए का टैक्स लगता है, वेदर यू आर अवेयर और नॉट. अगर उस पेट्रोल को जीएसटी में ले आते हैं तो जीएसटी में मैक्सिमम टैक्स रेट इज ओनली 28%. तो गवर्नमेंट को काफी बड़ा नुकसान हो जाता है. इसके लिए गवर्नमेंट ने स्टार्टिंग से पेट्रोल और लीकर, ये दो चीजों को जीएसटी में नहीं रखा है, बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट विल हैव हेवी 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 लॉस. एंड स्टेट के लिए सबसे बड़ा रेवेन्यू सोर्स जो टैक्स का है वो पेट्रोल और लीकर के ऊपर है. तो आपने देखा होगा लॉकडाउन में भी जो सबसे पहली चीज खोली गवर्नमेंट ने वो खोली थी लीकर शॉप. The reason is that state government wants some revenue for doing public service as far as corona is concerned. इसके लिए तो that's why पेट्रोल एंड लीकर दो चीजें जीएसटी लॉ में नहीं है, और गवर्नमेंट चाहती है उसको लाना, लेकिन फिलहाल स्टेट गवर्नमेंट आर नॉट रेडी. तो इट विल टेक टाइम, मेरे ख्याल से 5-7 साल शायद और लगेगा. उसके बाद देखा जाएगा कि क्या होगा. Over to you, Riti.
Hi all. I would like to introduce our second speaker of the day, Nirali Gada ma'am. She is a chartered accountant and commerce graduate and is associated with Deloitte Indirect Tax since 5 years. Ma'am has exposure on advisory and compliance with respect to several indirect taxes, including GST, excise duty, service tax, customs duty, value-added tax, central sales tax, and foreign trade policy. Along with this, she has also been involved in conducting tax due diligence, handling various assessments, including anti-profiteering matter, and assisting in indirect tax structuring assignments of various clients. She has also handled clients based in manufacturing, consumer durables, infrastructure, logistics, healthcare, and shipping sector on indirect tax advisory and compliance support engagements. She has also assisted with various associations for representations before ministry during GST implementation. With this brief introduction, I heartily welcome ma'am to enlighten us.
I'm audible, right? Because I'm
Yes,
not able to hear you now.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay. So to start with, what is the basis for definitions to be part of any law? So any law which is being drafted by government, it has some objective or some purpose behind it. So to kind of support or to kind of assist that objective, the law definitions are being articulated in that manner. So when you are reading any law, you cannot just bring references to any definitions which are there on Wikipedia or general Google. So you'll have to see if any word is appearing in any law, if there is first definition available of it, and if not, then you may check for other resources. So that is the background of the relevance of the definitions. Moving on to the first definition, which is there is a definition of aggregate turnover. By turnover, each of us would have kind of get that sense that it would be total of sales. So that is something understanding is clear, but which is correct, and with slight bit of extra part into it. So aggregate turnover under GST includes all taxable supplies, all exempt supplies, and all export of goods and services within it. And it excludes any taxes, be it CGST, SGST, IGST. So all this, if you sum up and you exclude the taxes, then you come to the total aggregate turnover. So aggregate has to be a total. It has to be at pan India for particular pan, that is per India entity level. You will have to see the aggregate turnover. The relevance of this definition would be understood in the subsequent session. Moving on to the kind of illustration which is here, if you see, there are three states which are there: Haryana, Gujarat, Delhi. So each of that has a different cases. First case we have tried kind of put is exempted as well as taxable supply. So while we are arriving at aggregate turnover, we would be totaling up all the three states taxable as well as exempt supply, which comes to 33 lakhs in first case. Next case, the variation is export amount, which has got added into Gujarat state, and accordingly the other amounts would also get totaled up, and which comes to 22 lakhs. Third case, if we see, the variation is towards non-taxable supply, and again that is something, again everything would get added up and aggregate turnover would form. Here non-taxable supply is to be understood that it is a subset of exempt supply. Moving on to the next very important definition, I can say, because GST is for businesses. Supply, as Manish ji has in detail explained, supply has to be in the course or furtherance of business. It cannot be something which is on personal level you are doing some activity. So what is business exactly, or how GST defines business? Business as per GST is any trade, commerce, manufacturing, profession, vacation, any such activity which you do, or any incidental activity which you do. This includes any acquisition of capital goods which are required for your business or at the time of commencement of business. There are certain activities when performed by central government, state governments are considered as business within purview of GST. There is one catch over here, which is that whether there is a relevance of frequency or continuity of any transaction to be considered as business. Suppose in this context, I would like to give one example. I am supposingly into dealing of some electrical items, and while sale purchase, some damage had happened to one of the particular bulb. So that bulb I am required to scrap off. So that's just a one-off transaction. There is no volume of that bulb. It's just a one bulb. And there might not be a regularity of that sort of transaction, but still it would fall within the ambit of business for the purpose of GST. There are special coverage also which are kind of deemed as a business under GST. So there is some club or some association or some society which is formed by members, and members generally contribute to any activity which is undertaken by those clubs. Those sort of activities are also considered as a business into the law. And there are various other activities also which are there, such as hotel industry, some institutions are there, or if you go for accommodation related services. So as I told you, that this definition is very wide. It, as sir had mentioned, that even exchange or the barter is also getting covered within the ambit of GST. Even the professions like CA practicing, or be it some architect who is into practicing, but he being possessing some sort of degree, but still it would be considered as business when he is doing that particular service or performing some particular service. So that is all about business. Moving on to business verticals. I think you all would have got some sense. Vertical would mean what? Vertical, supposingly for in our case, I try to take example of Reliance Retail. Reliance Retail has its grocery business, it's it's into textile business. So there are various components of that business verticals. So here again, the purpose of business vertical bringing that we would be able to understand as and when we would be deep diving into the registration part, which is there into GST law. But for the time being, you can understand that business vertical is something which is a individual goods or services, or I can group certain services into one category and another set of group of services into another category. So within same company, I have two different set of groups of goods or services, then this would be considered as a business vertical. So there are certain factors which one has to check whether those are following some sort of regulatory requirement, or there are different type of customers for those particular goods or services, and that is how you will be able to define what all are the verticals. Moving on to the next, this is one of my favorite definition, and I know you all also going to remember it within few seconds. Capital goods means goods, the value of which being capitalized in books of accounts. It is as simple as that. Any value which is being capitalized in the books of accounts of the businesses, it is qualifying definition of capital goods. Capital goods or any GST, even if you pay on capital goods, that is available as an input tax credit. You can take set off of that credit. And irrespective whether your capital goods are located at your head office, your factory premises, or even at your job workers place, if you are capitalizing into your books of accounts, it is qualifying qualifying test of capital goods. Moving on to the next, which is casual taxable person. By casual, we all understand it would be one-off or occasional transaction. So when we say casual taxable person, a person who occasionally does some sort of transaction, but he in a state where he does not have any fixed business. So here there is one example that one person is dealing into jewelry. He has his shop or the location registered in Mumbai, and he has to do some sort of exhibition, and while doing exhibition he might doing some sale. That exhibition is being conducted in Delhi. In Delhi he does not have any place, but he is doing some occasional transaction. So for that particular activity or for particular exhibition, he would be termed as casual taxable person in Delhi. So there are a certain set of compliance which is required to be complied by casual taxable person, and accordingly this person would be required to opt for certain registrations and all that procedural aspect. Moving on to the next definition, which is composite supply definition. This is again very interesting definition. I would try to make it simpler because there is some technical catch into it. First, composite supply, by the term composite, you can understand there has to be a connection or the conjunction of two different things. So here also composite supply definition is that if any supplier is supplying two or more goods or services together, which are bundled, which are naturally bundled, it is a technical term, and which has to be supplied together, which is in the normal course of business. So like we generally buy mobile phones. With mobile phones, we may get earphones at times, or we are getting, of course, we will have to get chargers into it. So the mobile phone and charger are something one can say those are naturally bundled. Without charger, mobile might not work. We might buy new one, but at the time of supplying, we are supplying those two items together. So that would fall within the definition of composite supply. While determining this concept is relevant because these sort of transaction you would have seen multiple times that two items are supplied together. So how to tax those items? That is something where this plays very important role. Moving on to the next topic, which is continuous supply. By continuous supply, here I would like to take a pause. If any one of you have any query, you can put it into chat box. I'll be trying to answer at the end of it. Yeah, so next is continuous supply. Continuous supply is something where the supplier or the businessman is supplying certain service or goods recurringly. There is no stoppage to it for at least 3 months. He is supplying it continuously for 3 months. So be it through wire, cables, pipelines, and there is a regular periodic payment to that. So supposingly at your houses, if there are any internet or Wi-Fi service providers, so they are providing you this services for like continuous basis, and they might be billing you on month basis. So that is something continuous supply of service. Why this definition is there again? Because there is some context which is drawn for this particular scenario in GST law, which we will be handling into the next session. Moving on to the electronic commerce definition. So this has to be a part of law because everything nowadays has gone digital. So e-com is something which has to be handled by law. So e-com, I know you must have got some sense that e-com has to be something which is on the electronic platform, which is completely right. So e-com is something supply of goods or services which are on some digital platform. And by this, there is an extended another definition, which is e-com operator. So who is operator? Who is operating, owning, managing this platform? So suppose in one case, we can take Flipkart. Flipkart has a digital platform. It might own, it manage, it operates. It has multiple suppliers registered on its platform who are doing sale purchase of goods. For another instance, we have Ola, Uber, or Swiggy, who are termed as aggregator in normal parlance, but those are also e-com operators because they are providing you this facility whereby you can approach cab drivers and you can get those services. So, and even the drivers are registered on their app or website. So e-com operator also has specific sort of transactions or compliance which are required under GST law. Hence, this definitions are being provided. Moving on to the next, which is supply of exempt. Exempt supply, if I would like to kind of bucket it, first is where there is nil rate of tax. And second is which are notified by government. Nil rate of tax, there are various goods, grocery items. Generally, we have some sort of food grains or pulses. So those all items are which government has to keep it nil because those are necessity items. And other which are notified time to time. So there are various services which are notified by government which promotes education or some sort of healthcare awareness. So those all are there which are nil rated or exempt supply. But here it is important to note that export of goods is not exempt supply. Export in itself is a different concept and exempt supplies is a totally different concept in the GST. And accordingly, even the ITC input tax credit related part also works differently for both the situation. Next is fixed establishment. By fixed establishment, anyone would sense that it would be some sort of office or some sort of factory. Yeah, which that understanding is again correct. But here the only essential part is that fixed establishment need not be a registered location. And where you can say there is sufficient degree of performance, there are sufficient structure for human and technical resources, then it would fall within the definition of fixed establishment. Fixed establishment has a connection with registration requirements and place of supply and location of provider of service, but that would something which would be too technical to handle at this point of time, but we'll be surely taking up next time. Moving on to the definition of goods, I think Manish ji has fairly covered and has explained it in very detailed manner. Next concept is job work. This is also one of the very crucial concept in GST. Job work means any treatment or process undertaken by a person belonging to goods which are to any other person. So supposingly there is some sort of assembly or some sort of polishing is required to be done. So I have a business who is into polishing of some pipes. Then I am not owner of those pipes. Pipes might be owned by someone else. What I am doing is only limited to polishing part. So that for that polishing part, I would be getting some sort of rewards or consideration from my those customers, but it would be considered as as a service, supply of service in the GST law. Moving on to the next concept, which is mixed supply concept. We have seen composite supply concept, and now this is mixed supply concept. Mixed supply is something when, again, two or more individual supply of goods are clubbed together, and but there has to be a single price. There cannot be a different price for each of the items. So when two or more supplies are supplied for a single price, it would be mixed supply. Here there is one interesting example. Supply of packages which consist of various dry fruits, chocolates, any food related items, and it is packed together. We have at times this Cadbury celebration packet whereby we have 5-star, we have Perk, we have Dairy Milk, all those different chocolates are there into it. So likewise, even we may have different some sort of packages where there is only single price which is agreed for it. So that single price concept for all these supplies would be considered as mixed supply. Mixed supply concept is important to understand because here GST would be levied as per the highest rate of any of this supply. Supposingly out of this 5-6 products which are there packaged in one product, and one of the product is attracting 28% GST rate, then on whole of the value for all the goods, it would be 28% GST rate. So that's where mixed supply concept is very important. Moving on to the next definition, which is outward supply. Outward supply, again, it's more on to when some sort of any supplier is doing some sort of sale or transfer or barter or rental. So basically, in normal parlance, when we do accounting also, we say sales, we generally show sales as our credit item. So outward supply is something you can consider as something your income. So on this item, generally, you are required to pay GST. Next concept is a concept of recipient. This is also one of the interesting concept. Here, there has to be one provider and one recipient, right, for particular supply. Someone who is there at the receiving end to receive goods or services. And sort of consideration, because there has to be some monetary consideration that, for an instance, I am going to buy some medicine. I am the one who is recipient and the shopkeeper is the supplier. So this is the definition of recipient in layman terms, the one who is going to pay for the particular medicine or for particular items. When there is no monetary terms involved, then there is some sort of analysis which is required to be done, whereby if someone is not making some sort of payment, then only if he is receiving goods, then that person becomes recipient, and or as he is receiving services, then that person becomes the recipient. So main thumb rule is that who is making the payment, and if there are no payments, then who is actually benefiting out of that particular item. This is something I have detailed out here. And next, moving on to the next concept, which is on reverse charge mechanism. This is something would be very new to all of you. In this concept, generally, as you understood, indirect tax is the levy where supplier would charge customer, collect from the customer, and deposit it with the government. But reverse charge is a concept where customer has to, or the recipient has to, on their own deposit GST with the government. There are certain list of notified goods or services, on such only reverse charge mechanism comes into picture. This is very special sort of transaction. It does not apply in general terms, but yeah, if some business is receiving some services, here maybe you can say one of the notified item which I would like to cover is the security service. Security service has been notified that any receiver who is taking this service is required to pay GST instead of supplier collecting it from the recipient and depositing with the government. Moving on to the next, which is on services. I think even Manish ji has covered this part in detail. Next is turnover in a state. First definition which we tried covering was an aggregate turnover. Now this is turnover in a state. that was at pen level, this is at state level. All other things are constant. So I think this aggregate turnover and turnover in a state can be read together. The next concept is voucher. This is also one of the interesting concepts. So generally we have Amazon or some food coupon voucher. So voucher is something which is now used predominantly for any payments. So voucher can be said to be equivalent to the cash, because when you have voucher, you can apply that voucher code and you can buy particular goods or services. So this is something which is equivalent to money value. So that's where, if a consideration, when we saw there has to be some sort of money consideration, even applying of voucher coupon would be considered as a consideration, and that's where this is important concept. Next is works contract. So Manish was trying to cover that there were various issues in pre-GST regime, whether particular thing is goods or particular thing is services. Even this works contract was very much debated in pre-GST regime, whereby because works contract, you see building or construction, there is cement, sand, material, everything is being used, and there are labor who are doing installation, fitting, some sort of renovation. So there is service element to it. So there is goods element as well as service element. So this is a combined supply. So here in GST, they have particularly said that works contract has to be considered as a service for the purpose of GST consideration. With this, I would be ending this definition session, but I would like to answer to the queries which you guys have. So I can see there is one question from Akash Kharwar, that composite supplies naturally bundle supply, whereas mixed supplies artificially bundle. Yeah, you can say so. What is the difference between mixed supply and composite supply? One of the answer, of course, Akash tried to give you, but this is something is much debated topic, and I must say you have raised very intelligent question here, because this is going to be a very litigative issue in the future. Ritik, can you just give me a second, because my battery is running low. I'll just attach my laptop charger.
Ma'am, your voice is really low. Can you please be a little more loud?
Was I audible throughout the session?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am, you were audible. This is
Okay,
really
okay.
low.
Okay. Just give me a second. I'm attaching my mobile laptop charger. Yeah. Meanwhile,
Yeah, sure. Ma'am, are you done speaking? But
yeah, I'll be answering the questions now.
okay, so I'll just conduct a question and answer session now then.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. Audience, y'all can keep posting your questions in the chat box. I'll read it out and your questions will be answered soon. Okay, so we have a question. Can we get the PDF in WhatsApp group? Yeah, mostly the PDF would be shared in the WhatsApp groups. Example of composite supply. Okay, Nirali ma'am, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Hello, I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah, Nirali ma'am, there's a question coming from, this question is coming from Dilip Kumar. He's asking, what are the examples of composite supply?
Okay. So to answer to Dilip, first of all, one of the example which I kind of tried giving was mobile phone with charger. That is a composite supply. But there are various
Okay.
other examples, such as another example would be when you buy some Dell or HP laptop. So there are at times the cover, a kind of a carry bag which is provided to carry that particular laptop with the brand of Dell or HP. So generally, the intention is to sell laptop, but they are simultaneously giving you this carry bag, so that even independently they are not selling that carry bag, but they are selling it together. So likewise, if you see any two products which are bundled together, and the market for one particular product by that supplier is not available, then those are composite supply.
Okay, so I request all the people in the audience to just put their cameras on so we can take a picture together. Just quickly put your, please everybody. Okay. So now I request Sheetal to propose a vote of thanks to express our gratitude for today's webinar. So over to you, Sheetal. Please continue.
A very warm good evening to all. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of CMC Spawn Mira Road and the entire crew member of CMC, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all. Gratitude is the fairest blossom which springs from the soul. So let us be grateful to people who make this day a memorable one. A big thank you to CM Manish Kadia sir for his efforts towards wonderful explanation about the following topics, like challenges in old structure taxes, advantages of a GST system, and dual structure of GST. And the way you explain the meaning of GST, I think we all are not going to forget the concept till the lifetime, right? You also explained the difference between origin-based and destination-based taxes and input tax goods. And you also gave some interesting examples to make it more understandable about GST. So thank you so much, sir. Now, I also wish to express my gratitude to C. Nirali Gada ma'am for delighting us by grading your important knowledge and sharing with us your findings and opinions today. Ma'am, you explained very fantastically about aggregate turnover, business, cash and taxable person, composite supply, and electronic commerce operator. It's really pleasure to have you both, CA Manish Kadia sir and CA Nirali Gadia ma'am. So thank you so much once again, sir and ma'am. Now, I would like to take this opportunity to place on record our hearty thanks to CMC Management Director, CA Deepak Bansal sir, and Principal Director, CA Madhuri Agavan ma'am, for the perfect logistic support and guidance that both of them have extended to all of us. Now, I must mention our deep sense of appreciation to coordinating members, organizers, CNC champions, and finally, our beloved participants for their involvement and enormous cooperation for making this session a memorable one. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Sheetal. It was indeed a great session today. And I want to thank all our dear speakers, teachers, and our dear directors, and everybody who had attended the session. Now, I would like to tell you about our next session, that is again by the Waves of Knowledge, a managing distraction session by His Grace Amog Leela Prabhudas ji, which will be conducted on 26th of September at 5 p.m. again, and we shall meet you all there soon. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.